Yo, so this is a fucking video that I'm making because I made a video before and I was talking about some motherfucking shit, and now I want to talk about some new shit. I don't really know what the fuck I want to talk about. But I've got a fucking teapot over there with a full fucking thing of tea, and I'm gonna go and get the tea. So I'm gonna have a fucking cup of tea, mate. Now I think I've found what I want to talk about. I don't know why people are so fucking sensitive about sexual topics, right? Like, if I just, like, straight up just told you I just had a wank, you know? I think that the thing is going to be a certain percentage of people that find me revolting. I actually find myself quite attractive. I mean, look, I've got a fucked up hairline, alright? I've always fucking thought that my hairline was fucked up, but you know what? In later years, I sort of came to terms with it, I was like, well, fuck, who gives a fuck? Like, it's actually quite cool. Like, it's unique, and I look like a mad scientist, and, I'm actually quite attractive. I'm hot as fuck, really. But I don't get what I want in life. I don't. I think I hold myself back or something, or I don't know what the fuck, but at the same time, I hold myself back for good reason, you know? Because I'm afraid. I'm afraid, like, if I really did start to fly, so to speak, there's always a chance that you fly too high and you just plummet and you hit the ground and gone. It's much easier to just stay in the four walls, protection, and not venture out into life's unpredictable situations. The thing is that I had this dream once when I was hitchhiking and I was sleeping wherever, I got this fucking air mattress thing, and I got like what's that fucking thing called? It's like a fucking a bivvy, a waterproof bivvy sack, and I had them in these two little sling bags. Right, I had a sling bag and I had like a fanny pack thing that was also a sling bag. I got fucking mocked for that. I got mocked for that in Queenstown by these little 7-year-olds and shit. But anyway, I had this shit, right, and I was hitchhiking around, and fucking before I went to Queenstown in New Zealand. This is in New Zealand. I was sleeping somewhere. I think Wellington or some fucking place. I was sleeping somewhere. And I had this dream that I was in like one of those. I was in in the Matrix #2, Reloaded. Yeah, Reloaded, and he's in that fucking Neo and shit, and all the special fucking dressed up people and shit are in that fucking mansion. Up in the hill, up in the fucking, Himalayas, or up in the fucking Himalayas, or whatever the fuck those mountains are, up in some France fucking Alps or something, French Alps, I don't know. And, they're in that fucking building, and then they open up that, how they open up their door, there's that scene where they open up the door, and then they're in a completely different fucking place, like, like they're in this building with all these rich people, the programmers of the Matrix, some fucking thing, and then he fucking, like they go to that door and it opens up and it's in the Himalayas. Well, that's what it was for me. I was in this house, which is, dreams, they usually say the dream is something to do with the mind, right? Or your own mind or your psyche or some fucking thing, right? And I was in this house, and then I had this fucking vision where I was going towards these doors, and it was doors like the ones in the movie, and they kind of had these like round metal handles, like the doors of an abbey or like a monk fucking place or like a big old house like that. And I opened them up, and I fucking went through that door, and I flew out into these mountains. I was soaring, and it was amazing. Like, it was a fucking amazing feeling, and I woke up and I was like, it's time to fly, And I was thinking of that song, like Learning to Fly or some fucking thing. I can't remember who it's by. Maybe it's by Sonic Syndicate or Sound Syndicate or some fucking thing. Whatever. But I had a dream last night that was like out of it as fuck, right? And I can't remember. At the moment I can't remember the thing before about it, but I do remember what it was. And I was going up at the end, like I was going up this fucking mountain, right? I was going up this fucking mountain in like a roller coaster type thing, and I fucking was going up, and then it just like was just like got to the top, and when I was going to the top, I was like, nah, you know what? I'm ready for this shit. I'm ready. Because I fucking normally hate roller coasters. When I was younger, fucking I hated roller coasters. I went to Six Flags, Magic Mountain, and all that fucking shit. I fucking hated it. Fucking hated it. They can't drag me there, right? I fucking hated the cunt. Fucking hated it. I didn't want to be there. Didn't want to fucking be there. Did not like it. But anyway, I was like, nah, I'm ready for this. I'm ready. And it was just like, whoosh, down this fucking steep, like, it was just like, fucking, like, flat out, just, like, going down. Just, like, plummeting. And I was like, yeah, nah, it's cool. It's cool. I'm just gonna go with it. And I went with it. And I plummeted. And I was like, I got all those feelings where you're, like, sick, and you're, like, fucked, and you're like, fuck. But in my head, I was just like, well, fuck, you know, I'm on the tracks. I'm on these fucking tracks, like, you know, no matter how fast I plummet and how far I go, I'm on these tracks, mate. Like, I can't, you know, there's a 99% chance that the car that is on the fucking tracks, you know, the fucking the car that's on the tracks and shit isn't gonna come off. So I was like, well, fuck it, I'm gonna go with it. So I went with it, and that's the first time I've ever really, you know. But it reminded me of that dream when I was flying and shit. And you know, everyone's got their fucking hang-ups and shit, and we're all scared of pain, but the thing is that pain is only in the moment. Like, we imagine all this pain that's in the future. You know, we imagine, oh fuck, I don't want that to happen because that'll happen, and then that'll happen, it'll have a chain reaction, and then somehow I'll end up in pain, or I'll end up doing something that it might not have never happened to me before, right? But I still have this idea in my head that I'm not gonna like it. And I go through that hardcore. I fucking have that hardcore. I don't know, some simpleton cunt out there must not have it. You know, some simpleton motherfuckers out there, they don't have that shit. They're like a dog. They just live day to day. They shit, they go to work, they wake up, they eat, they fucking, whatever, mate. They don't have a fucking mind. But, you know, people on our level, we have, you know, what they call anxiety, and we have premonitions, and we have all this fucking shit that goes through our head. You know, if you haven't experienced it, you just haven't experienced it. You know, you're not that type. You know, there's certain populations out there, I'm not going to mention them, but they've self-selected for these sorts of traits, and they use them very well. You know, they got fortune tellers, and they're known as fortune tellers, and they're known as this, and they're known as that, and, you know, they've self-selected for people being open to these types of experiences. So, I think you have to keep that in mind. And, yeah, no, I'm going to start making these videos, man, because fucking, you know what? I love to hear myself talk. I love my fucking voice, mate. I love the way I look. I love everything. I think everyone should fucking love everything that I'm doing, you know? I even love this little thing. I mean, fucking how attractive is that? Look at that. Look at that little brow crease. Fuck, it's attractive. I mean, fuck, yeah, I got a big massive forehead. Who cares? Who gives a fuck? I like it. It's my fucking time to shine, mate. It's my fucking time to shine. I mean, fuck. You know, you know what I don't get is, like, there's different types of attractiveness. Like, there's attractiveness in, like, on stage playing guitar, rocking out, rock star sort of way, right? Where you're, like, a unique individual, but people celebrate you for looking the way you do, even though you're not, like, conventionally attractive. And then there's, like, conventionally attractive people whose, like, faces are all fucking clean because they've never had acne, and they've never had fucking, like, anything happen to their face, and, you know, their fucking mum was like one of those mums out of one of those commercials. You know, one of those fucking commercials for, like, Dettol or fucking, you know, SC Johnson Family Company shit. You know those commercials, eh? And they're fucking, like, running around, and the mum's wiping every fucking thing down because she didn't want the kid to get anything. But then, like, you know, that's when I see someone with clear fucking skin and, like, a square fucking, you know how cunts have got those square fucking haircuts, eh? Like, it's like if I got a pen and I drew this shit right here, and then drew that across there. That's what some cunts have got as a hair. Like, people fucking, like, people go on about my hair, right? Because I got these high temples, and people are like, oh, your hairline's receding, you're going bald. Mate, I've been told that since I was 12. My hairline's strong as fuck, right? But it's just, my hairline is this hairline, like, it goes way back, you know? It's like that cunt in Harry Potter, the old Malfoy. Not Lucius Malfoy, the older fucking Malfoy, the fucking, you know... Oh, Lucius Malfoy, yeah, Lucius, and he's got the fuck, you know, and fucking, you know, it's the way it is, and you know, I can still look good. I can still have a haircut. I've got haircut phobias because when I was young, you know, I got this forehead and I got my hairline and shit, and when I went into the barbers and the fucking, you know, hair cutters and whatever, the salons, they you know, they fucked my hair up. You know, they didn't cut it like how they cut every other fucking... Because, you know, the majority... Somehow the gene pool must have self-selected for that fucking square. You know? And I take it a lot of times as, like, they can't think outside the box. Because you find a lot of people with that hair that goes like that, right? They got a box. They can't think outside the box. They don't think outside the box, eh? And I guess that's, like, what their ancestors, you know? Sorry, it's my foot. Their ancestors self-selected for that square fucking head, you know what I mean? And they fucking rolled it, and they don't think outside. You know, a lot of fucking, like, it's true. It's a stigma. Like, people that have got low foreheads are kind of, you know, more conservative and more, you know, less likely to be like fucking out the gate, and you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what it is. Like, maybe I got a big fucking head and a big skull and a big fucking circumference. I don't know. There's even people out there that get offended when you start talking about differences in people and differences in this and differences in that, difference in head size, cubic centimeter, fucking, you know, how many cc's you got on your skull. You know, and they think it's like an engine. They think it's like an engine, you know, like, I don't know. I've read some shit that said it is like an engine, you know. The more cc's you got in your head fucking space, the bigger, you know, your engine runs better, but I don't know. I wouldn't know. I just know what I read of fucking studies and, you know, oh, we did a study, but, you know, they can't do a study on 7 billion people, can they? Not all at once. So how the fuck would you know? Like, there's always going to be all this shit that the universe is throwing at us like, fuck you, cunt. It's written into the universe that you can't, you know, every time you think you got something, it's over there. It flips. You know, it's a sine wave. It's the sine wave principle, right? The Elliott wave bullshit as well. Not quite the Elliott wave, but it's a sine wave. You know, as soon as you fucking get to that peak, it just fucking goes down again. Like, you know, whew, 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 whew. And that's why I believe that the police cars have got the fucking black and white, and they got the red and blue, and then they got the whew, whew, whew. Because it's like, we're the cunts that remind you that the universe is going to fuck you over sometime. You know? We're the cunts that remind you that, you know, fucking, you know, you can't, you know, like, bad shit does happen, and you know, like, we're the cunts that separate the fucked up shit from the, we're right on the edge, and between the, you know, their whole thing is that they are the duality, like, they're the human embodiment, human group mind embodiment of duality, right? They're like, look, we separate what's what, you know, we're the law. The law separates what's okay and what's not okay. You know, so they're an extension of the law, I guess. Or maybe, I think, to be honest, the law is an extension of them. Because when you get stopped by the police on the street, a lot of people don't realize it, but when you get stopped by the police on the street, the court is in session. The court is in session because the thing is that those police and shit that are stopping you on the street, they're an extension of the king. Like not the king, but you know, like the basically, it goes back to the monarchy, right? Like, if you think of the king had his knights, and the king had a reign, right? A reign. Now people don't realize, but the word reign is related to the word right? Which is, I think it's also related to the German word Reich. So, because the T and the K are often interchangeable linguistically. So, you know, the people don't realize that it's related to the word right. And the word right, I think, if I remember correctly, etymologically, it means to rule, right? Like, and rule means to, like, make something straight, like a ruler. It's a straight line, right? So that's, like, where you draw the line. That's dividing things, right? It's stratification, it's hierarchy. Right there. And, you know, they're the personal embodiment of it. So the cops really, to me, are like basically how the knights were back in the day of the kings, right? And I think that really some of the early police or something, I think I read somewhere that some form of early control or something like that was some form of knight esquires or knights or some fucking thing like that. You know what I mean? So like the constabulary, the constabulary or whatever the fuck. So people don't realize this, but and the court is like the king's court, right? The king's court. Like people don't realize the court is like the king's court. It's the court. And the court is, where the magicians cast their spells, and, like in the king's days, Merlin was there, and he was a powerful magician, and they had all these other cunts, and the court magician, and the court jester, and, and people don't realize that it's almost like the courts these days, like the criminal courts and civil courts, there's someone's there to be the fool. A lot of times in the criminal courts, it's come to my sort of energy field, it's come to my attention that the people in the courts, the criminal courts, as a lot of times the people are making them be the fool. They're meant to play the fool. It's like, be the fool, do it right. If you can play the fool right, if you can, jump through all these fucking hoops for us, in the right way and at the right time, and do this and scratch my balls and blah 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 blah, we'll fucking, you'll fucking be right through. You get right through, mate. If you know your act. If you're a fool, you have an act, right? If you're a comedian, a fool, a jester, you have an act. And the judge is playing the part of the king, right? And then the lawyers are playing the part of, the prosecution and the defenders and all that. They're the magicians. And then, you got all the other fucking clerks or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then, you're being made to play the fool, kind of. And if you know your act properly, and you perform your act properly, you can, challenge the king. There's always a place to challenge the king, but it's the fool's job to challenge the king. And that's why a lot of times they're even getting you in there, because they need someone to challenge the king. They always need someone to challenge the establishment, because nothing in the universe is static, right? There's the whole word, like constabulary, stab, a stab, establishment. Like it's standing, it's like state, stable, right? Stay. That's the word, stay, S-T-A-Y, stay, right? Everything's staying. But people don't realize that nothing is stable, except the fact that nothing is stable. That's the stable fact, right? It's like the more things change, the more things stay the same, the more they change, or whatever, like that. That French thing, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Well, that's because the very thing about nothing being temporary, the Buddhist blah blah blah, and everything changing is, it's to do with that, like that's the fundamental thing that never changes, is the fact that things always change. So, a lot of people, when they hear that, they're just like, what? Like, they get fucking hypnotized, they get confused, they want to know more, and then, like, I give them answers, but I don't like answering questions, and I try to ask them questions, but they think I'm rude. But anyway, the thing is that's why they're dragging you into the court, because they're trying to learn from you. They're trying to learn from you. They're getting you to challenge the establishment so they can evolve. Because if the establishment doesn't evolve, then if you don't make the change at a steady rate, like this, it starts going like this, and that's when you get revolutions and fucking, like, revolutions. What do you think of revolution? Well, it's a spinning, a turn, revolving door, which is, going like this, like a windmill, which is, if you put it into half, it's like a sine wave. It's like that fucking, it's like if you imagine the Taiji, I think Taiji or Taijing in China, the yin yang sign, right? The Taoist fucking thing, and how it's the two fishes, the black and white, and with the eyes black and white, and they're revolving around, right? And in between it, it's a sine wave. Well, that's if you make it happen at a steady rate, it's not going to happen at a fucking crazy rate. Well, hopefully, right? That's the idea. So they're dragging all these cunts in for all this minor shit and actually looking for them. They're actually going out looking for them. Because they're like, we need to find these non-dualists so we can establish our duality. We need to go out and look for the non-duality so we can establish our duality. And then, it's the opposite for the non-dualists. They're just going around just like, oh, well, fuck, who cares, that's the number one, like, thing of the non-dualists. It's just like, oh, who cares, who cares what people say about each other, free speech, like, fuck, who cares, because it doesn't, as long as it's not in the moment hurting me, You know, if there's a moment when things are actually coming at me and hurting me, this is the non-dualist, right? Then fuck, you know, oh, fucking, I'm in pain. Oh, fuck, you know, there's something happening. But if there's nothing going on, you know, the non-dualists tend not to think so much in cause and effect. You know, they don't think in motives and things like that. Not so much, right? They don't think, well, why did this happen and why will that happen? That's actually kind of a hostile. If you ever ask like a non-dualist type personality, you know, why something happened, it's actually almost offensive to them, because it's just like, well, fuck, how the fuck would I know? There's this fucking long chain of shit and everything's connected. Everything's interconnected, because that's like a non-dual principle, right? Everything, you know, in between the black and the white is that line. Right, and that's actually the most important bit. That's like, because like, you know, they got the black, the white, and then the in-between part, which is like the Son, the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost, the Trinity, the Brahma, you know, Brahma, fucking Vishnu, and Shiva, that shit, you know, blah, blah, blah. The rule of three, all this golden triangle fucking bullshit, whatever, okay? But that's the thing that people don't realize, is that the non-dualists are just like, well, fuck, you know, you ask me why something happened, I don't fucking know. This happened here, and that happened here, and all this happened, and they're mostly focusing on what happened. But then, like, you talk to a dualist, and they're always really focusing on, you know, oh, well, what did you do? What did you do that led to something else that someone else did? And that caused someone else to do something else, right? And they're all about personal responsibility, because it's like that internal versus external locus of control thing. Yeah, you know, that's kind of how that is. But the police and that, they're like extensions of the Knights of the King. And you know, when the people don't realize that when you're on the street and the cops come up to you, the court is in session. The court is in session right fucking there, because they're an extension of the court. They're an extension. They're an arm. Why do you think people refer to guns and knives and swords and all that as arms? All right? Because they're an arm. They are an arm. They're a branch. They're an arm of the court. They're the force. You know, they're the force. So you know, fucking people don't realize that the court is in session when the cunts stop you on the street, or anytime you're interacting with cops that are in uniform, and people don't realize the court is in session. Right there. If you can act, if you can put on, if you're a jester, if you're the Joker, you're the jester, you're that character. If you can put on your act right there, and you can do your act properly, you know, you might have to make them laugh a bit. Because the rules aren't the same as the court. You know, that's the thing. Like, you could say, well, look, I'm just going to say one word, lawyer. Right? Lawyer. That's what I'm going to say. But what people don't realize is, if you just say lawyer sounds like the word liar. And their first thing is that they're gonna, and you think, oh, well, I'm saying, look, lawyer, which sounds like liar, and I'm saying that the cops are liars. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying liar. They say, well, you did this and you might have done that, and what are you doing, and blah, blah, blah. And I say, liar, to you. You're the cop. I'm saying, look, you're a liar. I'm disagreeing with everything that you say, right? Blah, 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 blah. But then the thing is that they can turn it around and be like, oh, so you're saying you're a liar. And that they will. That's what they'll do. That's what they would do. If he's a good cop, he'll say, oh, you're a liar. What did you say? You're a liar. See, they're good at this shit. So, you know, you can't just say that. You might have to say that, but then you might have to make them laugh a little bit, you know? Or you might have to, because if you just shut up and say lawyer, I want my lawyer, then they're gonna think you're guilty straight away, right? They're gonna probe for more, right? And they're gonna make, and this is the thing. There's a fine fucking line, okay? There's a fine fucking line, because yes, that's really what you should do. You should shut the fuck up, lawyer up, all that shit, right? But here's the thing, is that they're gonna make, because if they're experienced, if they're good, alright, then they'll know how to fucking fuck with you. Because they can fuck with you any way they want, really. They'll know how to fuck with you. Despite the fact that you want a lawyer, despite the fact that you claim you're not gonna say anything, they're gonna fucking fuck with you and try and make you say something. They're just gonna keep fucking with you. Alright, and they're good. They're good at getting into people's heads, alright? And, well, some of them, you know. And I'm not saying all of them like this. I'm not saying any. Most of them probably wouldn't even. If you said this shit to them, they'd say, "Oh, you're on drugs, mate. You're crazy." But this is the thing: is some people are practical, they practice this shit, and some people are theoretical, and they see it from a theoretical point of view. So I'm talking from the theoretical point of view, right? And the theory is that they're gonna fuck with you, and they're gonna do this, and they're gonna do that, and blah blah blah. So there's a fine line, like there's a fine fucking line between lawyering up and saying, I fucking don't want to say anything, and then at the same time, your act. You got to remember your act. Like maybe there's some way that you can make them laugh, or you can get in their fucking head, or you can do this or do that, and it deflects the situation, or you can stall. Sometimes you need a stall, you know, because they're trying to pin you down, kind of, and separate you. Because they're dualists, right? And you gotta be like, well, you gotta somehow convince them on a theoretical level, that they it's almost like you gotta convince you gotta get through their logical part of their brain, because that's where all this duality shit comes from, and you gotta get into their emotional side of their brain, right? Which is, that some of the ways to do that is through humor and jokes and like a lot of the times rhetoric as well works really well. Politicians love to use rhetoric, like things like double sentences, like it is what it is. That is classic rhetoric, right? It is what it is, and all that sort of shit, like word games and trick questions, because it gets into their it bypasses their logic, gets into their emotional side, and it'll like kind of hypnotize them, and that's what you got to do. You gotta be part way here and part way there, and you gotta kind of convince you gotta kind of get into their emotional subconscious, because the subconscious, right, is always going to be non-dual. It doesn't operate on duality. It doesn't, right? The conscious is the one that distinguishes. The conscious is the part that distinguishes, and it discriminates between what's this and what's that, and it distinguishes between this and that, and it lists and categorizes and places things and sorts things out. So you gotta reach into their shit behind that, and a perfect example of someone who does that really well, even though he's in prison and shit, is Charles Manson. Manson does it really well. Like he fucking gets in people's fucking heads, and with his he's got, if you listen to his crazy people like non like dualistic type of people will be like, oh, he's fucking crazy, he's lost his rocker, he's this, he's schizophrenic, blah blah blah, whatever. But really, if you watch that motherfucker and you actually theoretically, from a theoretical point of view, it's like, well, hey, what the fuck is he actually saying, right? He's throwing in these little bits that you think are gibberish, but it's almost like he's talking in code, right? It's almost like he's talking in code, like sort of like the language of flowers. Like, you can't say what you're saying, but you're saying it in a different way, and it's a big distraction. He loves to mindfuck people, basically, to get inside people's heads and be like, look, here I am, I'm inside of you. He even says that one day. He says, look, I'm inside of you, man. And the people are just like, what the fuck? Because he got inside them, right? He got inside. It's like a virus. And the type of things that are like viruses are things like religious stuff, family stuff, organizational stuff. Governments operate like this, gangs, any sort of group, like cults, religions, and they're like programs that like viruses, like computer viruses, right, or even autoimmune viruses, and they get in and they replicate inside the host. I mean, even the police themselves, the police don't realize this, but even the police themselves in the court system, basically this shit got into their head, and then they're replicating it. They're, like people think that people think thoughts, but actually it's almost like think thoughts people. I know that doesn't make sense, right? But think thoughts people, or I'm not going to say thoughts think people, because people think, right? But it's almost like think thoughts people. Think has thoughts, and they're people, and it's not like, it's almost like a better way of saying it is that people, ideas don't always serve people. People serve ideas. a lot of the time. And the idea itself is you know, this massive framework, and people are like a group organism. That's why they call it a corporation. Corpse. In Spanish, cuerpo. Corpse, right? A corpse, like a body. A corporation. An organization. Organs. You know, this person's specializations here, this guy's specialization here, an organization. Right? And you know, so they work together. And so people don't realize that they, a lot of times they're serving an idea, you know. And you know, that's what Charles Manson does, is he's breaking past that, and he's going straight into the person. He's breaking past the whole, that the framework and the imagery and all this stuff. You know, like, say I'm a court person. Well, you know, certain ideas, I'm serving certain ideas. They're kind of like my masters, right? Everyone's got masters, and everyone's got what's it called, like devotees, I guess you would call them, or subs, I guess, you know, like BDSM. Everyone's got people above them, and everyone's got below them, you know, the hierarchy. Everyone, you know, Charles Manson says himself, he says the universe is a big fuck. Okay, people are fucking you, you're fucking people, ideas are fucking ideas, you know, everything's fucking. So and someone else, I recently watched some other thing where someone else said it in a more polite way. He said it in a different way, but I can't exactly remember what it was. But anyway, so these lawyers and shit, Charles Manson's going straight fucking, and these interviewers, he's going straight fucking past that, and he's going straight into their mind, right? Through these various means, you know, rhetoric, and he fucks around with all this imagery, he makes them imagine things. He paints a picture, right? He gives them all these, feeds them visual language, imagery. Or maybe he clicks on, if they're a auditory person, and you know, you've seen him, he starts making all these weird sounds and facial expressions, and you know, he'll fucking make all these postures, right? He'll make all these postures with his body, because that's showmanship, right? And it's the same with Adolf Hitler, right? He gets up there and he fucking says this shit, and he slams his fucking hand, and he does all these fucking poses, and they got this whole uniform, because it's meant to get into the mind of the person, right? The personal shit. But it's meant to bypass the persona, right? It's meant to bypass the mask. It's meant to get straight into, you know, I don't even know what you'd call it, but get straight in there. So I find that very interesting. You know, people don't know that Adolf Hitler was trained by some stage master or some magician or something like that, with all these poses, right? He was trained. He actually sought training to, you know, in oration, which is, you know, a specific kind of art, oration. You know, there's a lot of things to do with that. So, yeah, I'm glad I made this video, and yeah, you know, I'm gonna make videos all the time, because I like to hear myself talk. I mean, like, you know, I know a lot of people are like, oh, you know, fuck, the cunt loves the sound of his voice, and you know, he fucking thinks he's so important, thinks he's so fucking smart, and blah fucking blah blah blah. And you know, I personally think I'm good at this shit. I can understand all the shit I'm talking. I can understand all of it. You know, I know a lot of people are just like, what the fuck, he's on drugs, you know, his accent's fucked, he's some Aussie bogan, fucking whatever. And that's another thing that's really interesting, because I recently watched this other video about, you know, the satanic church, and then the Luciferian church, right, which Satan being Saturn, and you know, the church of the hearing and the church of the seeing. And you know, a lot of people, that's the thing, is like, some people, it doesn't matter, it's not so much important to them who the messenger is, right? They don't give a fuck who the messenger is, whether it be Muhammad, Buddha, Jesus, fucking Confucius, because they all said similar things, right? That there's some sort of overlap, usually, between certain things. And but they'll say it in different ways, and people will say, well, fuck, you know, Muhammad had an 8-year-old fucking, you know, fucked an 8-year-old, or some fucking thing. Aisha, you know the story about Aisha. People say that, and they'll say, well, fuck, anything he says is bullshit. You know, fuck that cunt. But then there's people out there that are like, well, fuck, you know, Who cares who it was? It might be Richard Ramirez, that the Night Stalker, saying shit. It might be fucking Charles Manson. It might be Adolf Hitler. It might be SPM. You know, the rapper who's, you know, he's been in prison for like 40 fucking years now, or Sick X. You know, Six. The Brother Lynch Hung's friend. You know, like, you know, these people might say some profound shit. They might say some profound things. Anyone could. You can get profoundness from the voice, the mouth of someone intellectually disabled. You know, you can get it from a crazy man. You can get it from a fool. You can get it from anyone. And oftentimes people do. Oftentimes the best ideas and the most freshest stuff is from, like, you know, homeless people on the street and people within subcultures and scenes and situations that other people might look down upon or frown upon, or, you know, and that's why, like, you know, I know this happened to me as a young child. I would come home from school and, you know, I had certain friends and they would say certain things. And my parents would sometimes ask me, you know, when I said something like, you know, this or that. And they'll say, well, where did you get that from? You know, who told you that? And it's often, parents will often do this because they're trying to figure out where did you get this idea? You know, where would this child come into contact with such a thing? But, you know, that child got told by that other child, and that child came into contact with it from this person, and this person got it from that person. And, you know, if you really were able to trace some of the stuff back, you know, a lot of it probably didn't come from very you know, what society, larger society, polite society, whatever, considers you know, undesirable you know, origins. And that's where you get into the church of the seeing. You know, you get into the group of people that, or the tendency of a group of people or a lot of individuals or whatever to emphasize what they're seeing and who they're seeing, who's saying it, right? It's not about what they're saying, it's about who's saying it, right? So it's not about what you know, it's about who you know, yeah? But then there's also people out there that are like, well, fuck who you know, it's what you know. And fuck who's saying it, it's what they're saying. It's what they're saying that counts. And if you hear that, you know, like, and then, you know, that's where you get into all these dichotomies, you know, heaven and hell, and, you know, people are like, well, you know, to go to heaven you have to be an upstanding citizen, and then there's, you know, there's faith by acts and faith by beliefs and savior, you know, and you get into all these fucking differences of the ideas that people can have, and the ideologies and you know, thought forms, and yeah, pretty interesting stuff. So I think I'll leave it at that, because I'm gonna go have a look at some other stuff, and then I'm gonna come back and make another video. So just, you know,